Hello. My name is Caroline Muche, and you are watching The Choice of a Young Voice. This is the series where we talk about the different choices we make as young people. And one particular choice we are discussing today is the decision to end a relationship. And what happens when a relationship ends? So we are calling this grand episode the post-breakup episode. I'm sure you are all excited to know what we are going to talk about post-breakup. I have special guests right here with me who are going to elaborate more on this topic. One of our special guests, Rene Odanga himself, he's gone through breakups.
Yes, I have.
He has.
Yes, I have. So I'm not an expert.
But you will definitely be able to give us advice.
Well, not advice as much as share my experience.
Okay.
Hope that helps someone.
Great. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
And our expert.
On breakups?
Okay, wait. Not expert on breakups. Or maybe, I have no idea actually. No, is Lois Otende, Mrs. Lois Otende. She is an amazing woman of God, and she's here to share with us ways to cope with breakups and why are they there, and where did they come from, and how do we deal with it? We have a lovely audience here who are here to learn and also maybe share their stories. These people, they look like they've gone through so much breakup. Anyway, so stay with us, stay right here with us, and let's get into the heart of the topic. Why do we have to go through breakups, or do we have to?
I would like to, what do you think?
What do I think? I think, do we have to go through breakups?
Yeah.
Perhaps yes. I would say yes, we do, because to be cliche, whatever has a beginning has an end. Whether that end is...
Wait.
Hold up. Just wait,
Okay.
Carol. Wait. Whether that end is, in marriage where we say death is, well, the end, or the two of you sit down and you go like, you know what, we need to talk. I think whether we like it or not, breakups exist in any sense. They exist. How we handle it is a matter. Is a matter that needs to be,
Lois, what do you think?
I think now that I have dealt with breakup and I'm happily married with 2 children, if I look back, I don't think the breakups were necessary if I had strictly followed God's principles about relationships. And I think that is the gap that is missing in most of the youth instructions that we get today. Youths are not guided on how to make the right decisions. They don't have, I don't know how to put it, probably they've not been trained, and therefore, because of that gap, breakups will continue to be in the society. Yet, ideally, I think they are completely unnecessary.
Maybe we can start by, what are the things that actually lead to breakups? What are some of these things that lead to breakup? What do you think? Are there major ones? Or it depends on the situation. Okay, it depends. But what are some of these things that are common, and then someone just decides this can't work out?
I think in my experience, wow, that's a weird thing to
You're so experienced
about breakup. It's a weird thing to, in my experience, the major thing that I have always found a problem with, and when you talk about breakups, I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, I'm talking even about friendships, because those ones hurt.
They do.
Is a lack of honesty. A lack of honesty, whether with your partner, whether with your friend, or with yourself. Because you can always track the end of a relationship. The end of a relationship, you can track it to the beginning of that relationship. Why did that person get into that relationship? Why did they feel they needed someone else in their life? Did they really need someone else in their life? Were they honest with themselves then? Were they honest with their partner then as to what they expected, what they required, what are the non-negotiables, and what aren't? I find that honesty in all its forms is a lack of it, rather, leads to a lot of breakups.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what do you think?
Definitely getting into the wrong relationship with the wrong person at the wrong time will always lead to a breakup. And honesty is just a component that manifests itself when you're with the wrong person. Definitely. Honesty also, as he's saying, of course, honesty is one of the things that young people complain so much about.
Yeah.
But you notice there's this thing youths like bringing out. I feel like I needed someone in my life. That is why I got into this relationship. But I would like us to bring home this thing of a man and a woman coming together. Whose idea was it?
Yeah.
If you read Genesis 2:18, God says it is not good for man to be alone. So it was not Adam who decided. It is not Adam who felt that he was uncomfortable alone. It was God who, after creating Adam, giving him a job, giving him work to do in the garden, giving him instructions, giving him his word. He was in the presence of God. God now saw that this man will not be comfortable if I left him alone. So most young people get into the wrong relationships with the wrong people because they felt for themselves that they needed. It was not God's idea for them to be with someone else. So I think one of the things that young people need to understand is when it comes to serious relationships, the ones that lead into marriage, and not just marriage here, any relationship that is beneficial to someone should point them to a life beyond this day. And you shouldn't just engage yourself because he looks handsome or he has a nice job or he's gone to school. You need to ask yourself, will I get to heaven with this person? And those are questions that only God can answer. And God will answer them once you are fit to be attached to the right person in his sight, not in my opinion.
Okay.
So I think that is one thing that is very key about relationships for the youth. And once they understand that, they don't need to go through breakups, because we don't see Adam and Eve breaking up.
Yes.
Neither do we see. You see, when God saw that it was not good, it was God's idea. Let young people get that in their minds. It has to be God's idea for it to be good.
Amen. I'm getting inspired here. Are you getting inspired? Are you now thinking, hey, this relationship I'm in right now?
Was it your idea or God's idea?
Yeah, I was trying to. And now, talking about now, why relationships lead to breakup. Now, post-breakup, what we are actually talking about today, after the breakup. Now, people take post-breakup differently.
Yes.
There's someone who will be like, okay, fine. Rebound, go to the next person to feel like, I can get over this breakup by, investing into someone else or into something else. Or someone will go through depression. I know of people who have actually gone through genuine clinical depression because of breakup. Or, the different things that people go through. What do you think about that?
I think people are people and people are different.
Yeah.
People are people and people are different. People will handle different things differently.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, there are those who, from one buffet to the next. Then there are those who will sit down and start to restructure their lives.
Have you gone through a breakup?
Carol, I've gone through a breakup. You were there.
I'm asking you on television. I'm asking you on television.
You know what happened to me. You were there.
Maybe
so
share.
I am more of the latter, but not to an extreme degree. I did not move from person A to person B. I took time. I took a lot of time, and for me, it ended up being a bit destructive. I put a lot of my life on hold so that I could attend to only one aspect of my life, which I realized later is not even how I handle any other thing in my life. I ended up losing someone, and not in the sense of of them dying. Although at some point in my grief, I was hoping that by this they should have died. That way, there was a finality to it. It's not that they're somewhere else roaming the planet without me. I sat down for a long period. I mourned a 1.5-year relationship for 3 years. Yes. And in that time, a lot passed me by that I'd rather didn't pass me by. I failed to invest in a lot of things that would have been beneficial to me because of something that, in retrospect, was perhaps not as beneficial as I thought it was. So perhaps I should have taken a different approach. But given that it was my first time, I do not think I would take a different approach now. Given the information that I have now. It is the only way I could have learned some of the things that I ended up learning.
Wow, wow, interesting. Lois, maybe you could share maybe an experience if you've ever had one, or was your husband now your first boyfriend?
Carol, I wish he was. Now, unfortunately, he wasn't, but I thank God that I had to learn that way before I could get him. Now, there are certain things I would like us to probably bring our attention to. And I would not in any way encourage rebounds. But there's something we need to get very clearly. When young people have gone through breakups, there is a myth that you have to wait for this number of years to heal or this number of months to heal. Now, I'm not comfortable with that school of thought. My understanding is when God has spoken to you about the right person, even if you had a breakup yesterday, get over it.
Glory.
You've spoken about my life now.
Okay.
Get over it.
I'm not sharing.
Actually, get over it. Get over it. There is this myth that you have to wait, and if you don't wait, everyone will, the society will accuse you of getting into a rebound. Let me give you my experience. I was in a relationship that I felt was going to lead into marriage, and until it did not end there. And we had it took me into not clinical depression, but it was depression enough. Probably it was not diagnosed. I think it was. And we had to go into a fasting and prayer of about a week or so. And it was after that when God revealed, when God reveals to you exactly how your husband is going to be, you have not met him, even in the boyfriend that dumped you yesterday.
Hey.
So, for me, when God revealed that the person who had just dumped me was not my husband, and he revealed it so clearly, with facts, clear facts, that your husband will be like this, this height, this skin color, everything. God, the Holy Spirit revealed the accurate detail. It was around 4:30 in the morning, actually, when I woke up to pray, and we had fasted and prayed with a couple of elderly women, friends of mine. So when God revealed that, my heart just released the issue.
The pain.
It just, because you see, what we need to understand, young people need to understand that when it comes to relationships, it's more about God than it is about us. It is more about, because God has a projection into your good now and your good beyond. So when God tells you he has dumped you, and even though you wait for 3 years, this relationship, I don't want it. Get over it. And when God reveals the right person, don't take 5 years healing over what are you healing over? He was not the right person in the first place. Get over it. Now, look at the Bible. And how long did Jacob know Rachel?
What? Please hold that thought. Hold it. Don't forget your point. Please, we really want to continue hearing this wisdom. This is for me, guys. I'm not the host here. I am just sitting here listening and learning a lot. So we interviewed a lady who went through a breakup, and she shared her experience with us. So let's take a look at that. Let's hear what she had to say, and then we'll discuss further into this. So stay with us.
My breakup, I was the one who made the first move of breaking the relationship. The guy was the one who had issues. And one thing I've learned out of my experience is when you realize that there are small things in your relationship that you can see that it can't lead to a better future or a better marriage between the two of you, it's better for you to end the relationship. So as much as I was heartbroken, but the fact that in my mind I wasn't dumped, I was the one who ended up the relationship, it really made me have that courage of breaking up with him. Because as ladies, you should always never settle for less. You are important, and you should not let that man look down upon you. So if you realize that this man is even double dealing you in quotes or playing you, so it's better for you to make the first move before the reality comes and hits you when it's too late. I cried because reality really hurts. The truth always hurts. But after crying, as for me, after crying, I do cry until I cry no more. Now then, that is where now I come back, pray to God, because there's one thing that usually encourages me. The same God who takes away is the same God who will give me again. So if this guy was not good, yes, to me he was good, but he wasn't good enough. So as ladies, as much as you think that you have all, you have heaven, you have that guy that you've always wanted, but the fact that this guy can't maintain you, the only woman in his life, it means that he's not good enough.
Welcome back. It's getting hot in here. The lady talked about, ladies make the first move, and the men here have complained. They're complaining. Why? And we're going to hear your questions in a few. We're getting to you. After watching this video, what are your thoughts?
I don't have a problem with the lady making the first move. That's how my relationship ended. I was dumped by my girlfriend over text. And on a Friday evening. So that Sabbath by day went down the drain evil. But later on you start to notice that regardless of who makes the first step, if certain issues exist, they exist regardless of who sees them. It doesn't matter who sees the lion coming. The lion is coming.
That's true.
It doesn't matter who says, this thing is not working.
Yeah.
If it isn't working, what does it matter whose perspective it is? It is not working. The boyfriend making the first move to dump them because of some warped up sense of masculinity does not mean that thing is going to work any less or any more.
Wow.
So I think it is important. Although she believes that breakups are not necessary, and I agree, they are not.
They can be avoided.
They can be avoided if you end up in the right relationships for the right reasons with the right person at the right time.
Yeah.
But if you do not, and I pray that does not happen to anyone out there watching right now, if you do not, call it quits and pick yourself up as you should.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Lois, what do you think?
There's a statement that she made.
Yeah.
The same God that gave will give you again. And I was listening to that statement, I'm thinking, he should not give you again another boyfriend to end into another breakup.
Yeah.
Otherwise, God will be making too many mistakes.
Yeah.
Like a good speaker would say. So God should give you, but you should also work with God to give you the right person.
Yeah.
I think what we would like to really stress in this is your call to duty to cooperate with God himself is more important than what you think about these issues of life. And just before we watched that, I was trying to say that Jacob knew Rachel for a few hours.
Seconds.
Yeah, and they were happily married, because the clear revelation of God concerning their settlement was undoubtable in their minds. And that is the point where young people need to get, where if you ask them, has God spoken to you about this, they can confirm it undoubtedly.
And I guess that's the next question. How do you know that God has spoken?
For you to know that God has spoken, God speaks in many ways. And one thing we have to have clear is He will speak, like from my experience and from the experiences of close friends of mine as well. He gave very clear signs, so that when you met that person, based on a revelation He had given, you knew this is the person. So you can ask God to give you a sign. But yet again, the thing we must understand probably is, for God to also reveal that, you must be ready to accept the revelation. Let me give you an illustration. I've seen young people who are not comfortable with certain things. I always tell people, if God revealed to me who my husband would be even 1 hour before the day He did, I would have rejected His will. Do you get what I'm saying? There are some people who have a perception about a spouse that is completely not appropriate for them in the eyes of God. Probably you want a man who is like this, or men want women who are this kind, and God would say, no, 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 if I told you Carol was your wife, you're going to hurt her. I will not tell you now. You're not ready to deal with that information yet. So there is something else that young people have to understand is, for God to actually give you the revelation, you must be ready to accept His perfect will, undoubtedly, such that when He tells you it is Him, with His bent head, and His curved arm and whatever, you get what I'm talking about? You will be able to accept His will. God will not reveal His will to someone. He will not want to frustrate on any of His children. So He will withhold information if you're not ready to deal with that information.
That makes a lot of sense.
So there are two things I'm trying to say here, just a bit. One is God speaking, but two, for God to actually speak to you, you must be prepared. So there is duty at a personal level. Yes.
And that's why, people say, sinners won't enjoy heaven.
Yes.
I getting, like,
and
at that point,
yeah, God will have to
that's
put them
why
out.
They wouldn't.
they wouldn't enjoy it. Like, it's for their own good that they're actually not gonna make it. Like, yeah, I get what you're saying here. Questions. Hey,
Oh,
they are.
okay.
Wow. Let's start here.
Okay, I'm Sharon. By now I'm having 5 months since we break up. It reached Sunday 31st. It will be 6 months by now.
Wow. You have the date.
It was the first man, but to my decision I make that there's no need to move with any man in my life. Can you just advise me how to avoid the men? Then I stay single until I die, because even some men are coming but I still reject that this is not the right person. I should not even have any man in my life. I should just be single, because I want to try to avoid those heartbreaks, because it hurt me sometimes. If they quarrel all over the time, maybe if you did just a little mistake, maybe he call, you have not picked the call, you are cheating, you have another man. So it's just heartbroken. I just feel like, no, it is enough. I should just be single the rest of my life. Can I make it, or I wait for the second one, or what should I do?
Could I?
Yes.
You want to respond?
I'm itching. I'm actually itching. What you're talking about is celibacy, right? I need you to understand that God is never going to ask you to do something because of the hurt you experienced from someone else. Your reason for celibacy has to be God, not because of a horrible, terrible experience you had with someone else. That cannot be the motivating factor. You cannot decide to spend the rest of your life single, away from an institution that is supposed to teach us of the relationship we are to have with God, simply because someone did not value you. It does not go that way. When you look at anybody that God used, God did not use their heart from a previous relationship with someone as a foundation for their excellence. David did not become king because his brothers and his father mistreated him. He became king because God chose him to be king. Joseph did not become the prime minister of Egypt simply because his brothers sold him into slavery. He became prime minister of Egypt because God chose him. You are not to remain single for the rest of your life because a man hurt you. Paul says that celibacy is purely in order to concentrate on God's work. For any other reason, celibacy is a gift of the Holy Spirit, not a burden of a failed relationship.
Yes, Lois.
Sharon, I'm sorry. We've all been there at some point.
Yeah.
But I would like to encourage you with Psalms 84:11. It says, "Nothing good will the Lord withhold from him whose walk is upright." Did you get that? It says nothing good. It means anyone whose walk is upright is entitled to everything good from God. Now, when God allows us to go through breakups, it means that was not good for you yet. And my encouragement to you is square your relationship with God, and then he will see that it is not good for Sharon to be alone. And when God sees that, don't fight that. Accept his will, and you will be much happier than the decision you thought you would probably make of being single. It is not necessary to do that to yourself because of one man. I mean, you know, we always told, when we were going through heartbreaks, someone would tell you, "Oh, Lois, 10 years into marriage, you'll be looking back and you're thinking, what was I even thinking, crying over this guy?"
Yeah.
And we used to think, how can she or he be talking to me like that?
Yeah.
They don't even understand
my pain. There we go.
They don't know what I'm going through.
Honestly, this is my 7th year into marriage, and I'm thinking, what was I thinking? You know, we were discussing this with my sister, and I'm telling her, do you know, I'm going to host a show on this because she also dealt with breakup, and hers was so bad. And we were laughing. She sent me, ha, 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 laughing, and we were just naming what we had to deal with, and we were thinking, what were we thinking that time, dating these kinds of people? Then they break our hearts, then we go so low. I mean, it is not worth it. God has given you the promise, okay? That he will not withhold. And by the way, God is able to give you a good man. It is now for you to trust him, because when he says in Numbers 22:11, God is not man that he should lie, he means it. If he says he will not withhold anything good from a young person, he will not do it. And Isaiah 34 says, none shall lack a mate. Okay? God has given that assurance. There is nobody in this world who God has not had a perfect mate for. And a good one, by the way. Okay? So what I would encourage you to do, don't die in that state of pain and bitterness and then now disregard all other. There are good men out there. Praise God.
Amen.
There are good
Hallelujah.
We'll be out here.
Yeah. So get over it.
Yeah.
Stop being selfish about your feelings.
Yes.
That is one of the reasons why youths hold on to onto the bitterness of breakup.
Yeah.
You're thinking, how could he do that to me? No, it's possible to do that to you if he feels it's okay. Give people, I have a friend who says, give people the freedom to be who they are. And they'll be your friends indeed. If he felt he was no longer interested in you, that's fine, give him the freedom. That is what true love is about. If true love has a lot of freedom and is very spacious.
Yeah.
Give people freedom to be who if they don't like what you've done and they feel like they don't want to see you, give them the space and the time and release your feelings, and don't attach yourself to all the small things about life. You will be broken, okay? And there is probably a good man somewhere, so
Probably seated in here.
yeah, and God will not withhold that from you.
Another question. Okay, let's get from a man. Hey, this one is burning. Hey, talk.
I'm Eli Olo. I have this friend whom I need us to help. I don't know. He's been saying that he has no experience in heartbreak. Yet ladies reject him whenever he has a girlfriend. But he has this motion that I don't chase any lady, I replace immediately. So how can we help such a man?
What? What?
I have nothing to say to that. Lois.
Now, this is what you need to tell your friend. Trifling with hearts is a sin of no small magnitude in the eyes of God. You cannot go picking and picking people and having them emotionally attached to you and moving on one after another, and think that now you're being man enough and you're doing God a favor by keeping his ladies busy. Okay? So tell him to be man enough to consult God about a good wife, because the Bible tells us whosoever findeth a good wife findeth a wife, findeth a good thing, and favor from God. So let him not forget that God will revisit trifling of hearts, and God is not going to take it very kindly. Women are emotional people. You attach yourself to them and you just leave them and you move to another one, and they see you the next day and you've had a series of 10. He's not going to take it very lightly.
I was going to have to deal with God. Yes, let's go to another question. Lady in the back, in black.
Thank you. I'm Adembo Beryl. My question goes, is it really true that your first fiancé will never marry you no matter what comes may?
What?
No, that's not true at all. And that's the end of my
Your
answer.
first fiancé, not your first
It doesn't
girlfriend or
matter.
boyfriend.
Whichever. First girlfriend, first fiancé, first best friend. No, and that's the end of my answer. Maybe unless you have something more profound to add to that.
Now, as I said before, these schools of thought have no basis in God's way of doing things. None at all. We see God hooking up people in the Bible. They are the first fiancé, first wife, first spouse, first everything.
Yeah.
And if God has guided you into the right person and it's your first relationship, there is nothing wrong that will happen if you plan your wedding and get married.
Yeah.
It will happen because when God purposes to do something, he will do it and nothing will take it back from him. So that is a myth. And it's a social thing that you'll hear it around, but it has no basis in God's way of doing things.
Amen. Amen. We need to learn God's way of doing things. The last question, the man in purple.
Yeah, my name is David. Okay, I have a question. Once, some years back, I was heartbroken by a certain lady whom I loved so much. So after that, each day I could find myself going through her profile in Facebook, and after that, I could lock myself inside the room and start crying. So I think there are some other people outside there who are going through such situation. So how can we help these people? Yeah.
I think one thing young people need to understand is there's a difference between true love and infatuation. And it's a very big one. Now, infatuation tends to be very clingy and it's very clingy, and you adhere to it strongly and in a very unnatural way. So much so that when there's a slight detachment, it brings a lot of depth in sorrow. Now, where there was genuine true love, you will not need to deal with something like that. And that is what I'm talking about. Most of the breakups that people are having are not of the high and holy principle called love. It is of infatuation. And they believe because they have those strong feelings about someone else, then they love them. But that is not truly the case, actually. Someone that you love, you will give them a lot of freedom. And that is what I'm still trying to stress here. True love has a lot of freedom and is very spacious. You will give people the freedom to not want to see you. You will give them the freedom to not feel like talking to you. You will give them the freedom to not feel like being with you, to not feel like putting up your photos on social networks. You will give them the freedom to be who they are. Now, the man that God blessed me with is not a very public affection person. And I had to just give him the freedom to be the way he is. Because you find some women now demanding that, do this for me, you know, they feel good when probably you hold their hands in public, etc., etc. But if he doesn't like it that way, that you just give them the freedom. If they don't want to be with you at that time, it's fine. My mom always told me true love has a lot of freedom and is very spacious. But when you find yourself being unusually clingy and attached, so that when there is a slight space, you are so affected, that was infatuation. It was not true love.
Wow. Wow. You have hit the nail on the head. I was going to say.
Hit the head on the nail.
You really have. You've even just spoken to me. Anyway, we're going to go for a short break and come back and then have the final word of encouragement. How to deal with post-breakup. Stay with us. Welcome back. You are here watching The Choice of a Young Voice, and we've been talking about post-breakup. And right now, we've really learnt a lot. Have you learnt a lot? I know I have. Renee, have you?
I've learnt a lot.
You've even taught me a lot. Like Renee, that's a first.
That's a first. It is a first.
Yes, so I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Maybe, Lois, you could just give us the final word of encouragement. Someone here or someone watching, and they're struggling, going through so many relationships, breakup here, and what would please encourage us?
I think, Carol, one thing that I would like to encourage young people is you don't have to go through breakups. It is a societal myth that, as we said before, has no biblical basis completely. If we would just receive God's clear word concerning the right person, then we can avoid these many heartbreaks. Now, what we need to encourage those who are planning to deal with it, like we had some people planning to end relationships after this show, and or those who are dealing with breakups right now, is it has now become part of your life. One way to deal with breakups is keep yourself busy. Find other hobbies to engage yourself in. If you love cooking, do cooking classes. I mean, just get busy, go out for missions. Don't leave yourself idle, because if your mind is idle, the devil will take advantage of it.
Yes.
So when you're dealing with breakup, one of the best things to do is discover new things that you can do for yourself and also for God's glory. That you can engage your mind from morning to evening and keep those things off of your mind as much as possible. Secondly, as you are dealing with this breakup, consult God over the right person. And when he speaks, don't take too long. Don't take too long. Don't buy into that thought that you have to wait for 1, 2, 4, 5 years. There is nobody who said that the perfect time to deal with the breakup is 1 year. No, 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 no. You can meet the right person 3 weeks after a breakup and you will still be very happy if God communicated concerning that person. So what we need to understand is after a breakup, God's communication is supreme. His directives will have to guide you 100%. And when he is guiding, there is nothing wrong with, regardless of what society thinks, move. Okay? Like for me, mine took about 3 weeks, and honestly, I have no regrets. People thought it was a rebound, but you see, after the fasting and prayer, God had spoken. So
You rebounded into Jesus.
yeah, like he said,
Hallelujah.
it was a rebound, yes,
Into God's plan.
in the society's eyes, but it was a rebound, as he's saying, into God's will. Okay, and I have never looked back. So in breakups, strive to understand God's perfect will. But as you're doing that, engage yourself. Remember, Christ said, occupy till I come. Don't leave your mind idle so that you will stress yourself. Now, the other thing we need to consider, there are people with different personalities. There are people who can handle breakups very well because their personalities are very assertive and they will move on with things. But the nature of these people with very reserved, quiet personalities tend to be greatly affected by small things in life. So if you think your situation is really bad, get counseling. It's okay. There are people that God has blessed with the ability to give right instructions out of these things that will guide you in dealing with that, and feel free to get help. There's nothing embarrassing about that.
Thank you so much, Lois. Thank you so much, Renee.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. I am humbled. I've learned so much, and we thank God for this day, for this topic. I pray that you have learned a lot as well. And if you're planning to end a relationship, just go ahead and do it. And ask God to help you, guide you as as we are all striving towards being married someday. May God bless you. See you next time. Have a lovely week.